Welcome back for another book review. Today we are talking about this one. So this is A Cart Full of Magic, Your Secret Supermarket Shopping List. That's a tongue twister. This is, I don't actually know how to say the author's name. I think to me it looks like maybe Ileana? Maybe? I don't know how to say the last name either, but this teeny tiny little book. So this is a much smaller book than your average one. If you have seen like Deborah Blake's 366 Days of like Magic or Witchcraft or something like that, and she's got a couple of this size. They are far shorter. They're actually pretty close to maybe like Lisa Chamberlain's books, where it's not the normal height. It's quite small actually. So the brief premise of this book is that it is a reference guide for a lot of things that you can find at your average grocery store and how to use that as a witch with some ideas. I would rate this book a 3 out of 5. It's not my favorite. So first of all, the pages are not that helpful. Like when you go to look for anything, like we'll just flip to this random page. So we have like nutmeg. There's only one thing listed. Occasionally you get some that have like 2, which they're not terribly common. And for the most part, pretty much every herb is gonna have multiple things. And it's very rare if it's just one. And I didn't love that. And it doesn't have any of the other normal things listed. And I was comparing this one to Cunningham's book and a few others where typically you're gonna list certain things, especially for this kind of a book. And she starts off with like this kind of attitude that like, well, not everything has to be magic, but then lists a lot of stuff that you're like, okay, but why? And so like I already was like not trusting how much is going to be included in this, but like the things in here are just kind of pretty basic and random. There's not a whole lot of like, hey, this is the Planetary Association and these are the different things. It's usually like, again, 1 or 2 points. Not a big fan of that. And honestly, when I jumped into this book pretty quickly, I was already getting concerned with her mentality, and it kind of went through-ish. So she has a lot of that like health conscious vibe. Not a big fan of that personally, because there's a lot of like fat shaming and just like weight loss discussions. And she's like, well, back when I was in Weight Watchers, and you're like, oh God, okay. So yep, because obviously every single processed food is going to be the enemy. There's no magic in it, and it's like, I call bull, but whatever. And there's also a little bit of eco-shaming, like you have to have like cage-free, which if you have looked into veganism doesn't mean diddly fucking squat. But just so you're aware, that doesn't actually mean what you think it means, and it's not really the great thing that you think it is, but whatever. And also there's like the shaming for like, you gotta get organic. Talk to farmers, they'll explain to you why that's not necessarily a great thing. Like when you go into the niche groups, there's usually a reason why but that just doesn't fit this type of person. And I think we've all encountered this type of person. If you haven't, count your blessings, because it's fun. They pick random lines to follow and other ones not. Thankfully, she didn't stick too hard on the eco-shaming like some people do. We've had that, I think it was Franklin's book that we talked about semi-recently-ish, where they were like, oh my God, like that author is like, you're not allowed to use like anything ever, but also like botulism was fine. This one doesn't go that hard. Like it is more like, use vinegar when you can, but like also sometimes you do need to just like break down and use like the actual products that are available to actually like really clean your house. So I'm glad that she didn't like hold strong to that point. Like she did eventually like kind of back off, which was nice. Really my big issue is just that these entries are so small for what I'm wanting. And there's other things too that I'm not like the world's biggest fan of, but also the fact that she tells you not to use anything with preservatives, but then also like she tells you to use like sprinkles, and I'm like, do you not think that that has like preservatives? Because like they have no flavor. But okay, so the intended audience for this book is definitely for like maybe beginner witchcraft in the kitchen. If you're wanting to do more like kitchen witchery, or you're just wanting to add a little bit of magic, if like maybe not full-blown like kitchen witch, but like maybe you're like, I want to use some ingredients that I have in the kitchen. This would be like maybe a good like starting point-ish, because we'll get into it in the other notes, but it's not necessarily the greatest. Would I buy it? No. No. Even though Cunningham's book doesn't have everything that I want, this doesn't either. It actually has less than other books, so not, to me it wasn't worth it. Now we are going to move on to some of the specific things that I pulled from this book. So on page 17, we've got a long sentence. Just brace yourselves. Not everything in the supermarket has a magical meaning. It would be silly to suggest it does. A small percentage of items or produce that have magical properties do not contain preservatives. Thus, items such as packaged cookies, chips, canned vegetables, and pasta sauces are not used in magic. As you can appreciate, there is no magic in a can of soup that you heat in the microwave for 2 minutes, but if you make the soup from scratch, it takes a magical direction. No. Absolutely the hell not, no. Like, it is just, no. First of all, it's so many levels of no. Magical properties can be found in preservatives because, like, y'all, salt is a preservative. Also, most of the time the people that are really flipping out over, like, the ingredients list on items, most of the time actually don't know anything about them. There are plenty of people who talk about this who do the research. I'm not that person, but I enjoy their content, so I know it exists. But there are plenty of places that will tell you how, like, these preservatives that are so evil are really just not that big of a deal, and the ingredients list that people get scared about isn't usually that big of a deal. But also, like, I'm sorry that your life is so sad and tragic that you can't find magic in using an Oreo cookie as an offering at, like, or like as your cakes and ale or whatever for your ritual for, like, specific times of the year. Like, it is a great option for the equinoxes, because again, you can take the top cookie off and be like, ta-da! That it's like, or the ones that have the mix where it has the light and the dark, like, top and then the cream in the middle, because that's great for the, like, equinox, time of light and dark. Also, for the moon phase of the first quarter and the last quarter, same thing. Like, you can find magic in everything. Also, like, why would a can of pasta sauce not have magic, but if I make it by scratch, then it's gonna have magic? I don't love that message. I think it's really stupid, because, like, no, it's still there. The food has not changed at all. It's just, it's there. And it's shaming a lot of people who may not be able to get access to these things, because, like, I never really got to experience it until I went to Tennessee last year. Or was it 2 years ago now? Was it last year? Time is a thing. Last time I went to Tennessee, there was, like, the first time I really experienced what food deserts are. That grocery store had, like, nothing. There was no big section of produce and organic and cage-free. You were lucky to find eggs at all. And, like, the whole refrigerated food section was, like, one side of a thing. That was it, and the freezer was just an end cap, and that was it. So, like, people who live in those areas are not going to be able to do that. Like, you're not going to be able to go and get all of the ingredients. If you live in a food desert, they exist. To be able to go and buy all of these things where you could find canned foods because they are easier to get in food deserts. And also, like, just excluding disabilities and mental health and all of that, and, like, time. Because most people have to work a lot of hours. You're not going to have time to go and make every single thing by scratch. Like, just, no, stop it. You're fine. You can have your, like, coffee creamer can totally have magic in there, just as much as if you tried to make it yourself. You know, like, if you want to take that amount of time to figure it out on your own, go for it. If not, it's available. And, like, most of us aren't going to make, like, yogurt from scratch. I don't even know how to make yogurt from scratch. I don't want to find out either. And, like, I totally use that. And ironically, later in the book, she tells you to use yogurt magic as a specific one. And, like, cheese. No one's making cheese at home. But, like, those processes are fine. But, like, canned soup is the problem. Next, we've got page 27. When at the store, try to be in a reasonable frame of mind. Remember, you are shopping for a particular item to manifest a need. The last thing you need is to be moody, tired, or angry as you select your magical items. If you are, you can actually kill the energy you were trying to bring on in the first place. I don't know how to break it to you, honey, but if you shopping is going to kill the energy, I don't know that the energy was there to begin with. Because I can guarantee you, as my husband is one of the people who does this and has for years, the people who stock the shelves and unload the big major trucks, they are not always in a good mood. They are not happy. They are pissed. They're overworked. They have managers who do not understand things. They have coworkers that suck ass and don't do what they need to, and it delays everybody. And there's just not a happy vibe that you're thinking is happening. And if you shopping and grabbing the item is going to kill the magic, how is the person who loaded the item into the truck, maybe even in the processing stage, like harvested it, was in the factory that made it, was in the packaging department that put it into the initial like containers and into the boxes that went into the first truck that went off to the distribution centers, and all of those people and all of those steps, how would their energy not kill the magic in the item? Because that's going to apply for everything. All of your stones, all of your herbs, all of your food, all of your statues, your altar cloths, your clothes, everything. Like, no. It's fine. It's a really stupid thing to be like, oh my god, you're gonna kill your magic because you're tired when you went to the store. No, it's fine. So on page 70, she's talking about ice cream in particular, again, with the processing. Is that random a problem? Because I know she's not making it by hand, but whatever. So she says, but don't indulge too long. The longer you drown in your sorrows, the harder it is for you to surface, and your weight and health may suffer and become a painful reminder of why you started the self-medicating journey in the first place. There's a lot of fat shaming. That's just one in particular that I decided to pull out because, like, you know what? Like, just stop. Just stop. There's a better way to word that. That would be like, hey, if you're still really struggling, go seek help. That would be a greater way to put that. To be like, hey, have you noticed that, like, you're really struggling on your own and the only way that you're finding any kind of comfort is from food? Maybe it's starting to be time that you need to look for outside help, not you're gonna get fat and like it doesn't fix your problems anyways. Like, just, again, that particular, like, Cunningham had that in his book, which is one of the reasons I didn't love it. And I don't love that mindset of like, but if you could just like do better, like you'd be fine. Because that's not the case. And a lot of times, like, not necessarily everything you eat is going to be tied to your weight. It does to some degree, but there's also plenty of disorders that cause other issues, and like, we're just gonna huck mental health discussion just out the window for that one, because why would we just not be a little more aware in, especially modernly, the discussion's getting a lot bigger, and it's like, you're clinging to the past for that particular mindset. Page 137, she tells you to use the barbecue things, the barbecue charcoal coal things, inside of your house instead of the one specifically designed for incense. No, I did a, like, I know that I have had so many books already grill this. Do not, puns unintendedly, but don't use those. Like, very adamantly, like, absolutely do not use those for your rituals, especially indoors. Do not. And I was like, I'm pretty sure, I know I've read it in other books, but is there, it's like, I know I would never. I know that I also tell people no, never. Was there reasons? And so a quick Google search, first top 5 results, all of them from like major big companies, health places, and different things like that, different government entities being like, no, don't do that. Because you, like, the very top thing is that you need a lot of ventilation. The only time that you should be using a barbecue charcoal instead of the one specifically designed to burn your little incense and stuff on is if it's outside in like a cauldron of like a fire pit. Those kind. That's when you should use that. Because you're also gonna build a fire or you're gonna cook on it. Not inside of your house. That's really bad. So no, don't do that. Go ahead, spend the like $3 it's gonna take to go find a package of the little charcoal discs that are specifically designed to be used indoors for incense. You can find them everywhere. I'm pretty sure that like other religions use it. It's not just witches. I want to say the Catholics might even use it with their thingamajigger that they use to smoke their area. I'm not 100% confident, but I feel like they do, so you might be able to find it at like Catholic supply areas, but definitely witchcraft supply stores, all of them will have it. You can usually find it very easily. Don't use barbecue coal. Not the same thing. Really bad for you. Terrible. I don't know why Llewellyn let that slide. I am judging them immensely for that one. And then lastly, there is no bibliography. There is no references. There is no recommended readings. There is nothing, which to me, especially for this kind of a book, is a big red flag. Where did you find your information? Was it just from your own mind? Because I would love to have some group effort for that. Like, did you reference Cunningham? Did you reference even like some random books? Like, I'm constantly going through my old books that I've read, and there's some that they have some good information, but like, you didn't include that. I have no idea. Did you just go to random websites? I don't know. And that is very alarming. I want to know where you got your information. And especially what place told you that you could use charcoal indoors. That one was a fun one. So anyways, obviously I didn't particularly like this book. Is it the worst thing ever written? No. Like, it's just like, minus the things that I brought up specifically, it's like alright-ish. Like, it's like, okay, like you included some stuff that not everyone, you know, a lot of the books don't always include like food items. Like, you might, like, even looking for Cunningham, I was trying to find, I think it was like blueberries, not in his book. Really, Cunningham. Just random kitchen stuff he doesn't have, and I'm like, why do you fail me? But, you know, then it's in these books, but I have no idea where they got their information from. Is it just their experience? That's fine. Just tell me that it's your experience. Just not having anything was a little bit of like a So anyways, those are my thoughts on this book. I would love to know yours in the comments down below. A huge thank you to my patrons. If you want to support me and get access to exclusive content, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I post every single day. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.